4:18 Famine in Samaria. Chapter 7. Then Elisha said, "Hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, tomorrow about this time a measure of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria." 2. Then the king's aide answered and said, "If the Lord should make windows in heaven, could this thing be?" And Elisha said to him, "Behold, you will see it with your own eyes, but you shall not eat of it." 3. Now there were 4 leprous men sitting at the entrance of the gate, and they said to one another, "Why do we sit here until we die?" "4. If we say we will enter into the city, the famine is severe in the city, and we shall die there. And if we still sit here, we die also. Now therefore come, let us go to the camp of Aram. If they save us alive, we shall live. If they put us to death, we shall but die." Five. So they rose early in the morning, in the twilight, to go to the camp of Aram. And when they were come to the uttermost parts of the camp, behold, there was no man there. 6. For the Lord had made the army of Aram hear the noise of horses, and the noise of chariots, and the noise of a great army. And they said to one another, "Oh, the king of Israel has hired against us the king of Egypt, of the Egyptians, and the king of the Hittites to come upon us." Hey, hello. Seven. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents, their horses, and their asses, even their camp as it was, and they fled for their lives. 8. And when these lepers came to the uttermost parts of the camp, they went into a tent, and ate and drank, and took from there silver and gold and clothing, and went and hid it. And then they came again and entered into another tent, and carried the booty from there also, and went and hid it. 9. Then they said to one another, "What, we are not doing right. This day is a day of good tidings. How long shall we remain silent? If we wait until the morning light, some mischief will come upon us. Now therefore, come, let us go and tell the king's household." 11. Uh, 10. So they came and called to the doorkeepers of the city, and they told them, saying, "We went to the camp of Aram, behold, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied and asses tied, and tents as they were." 11. And the doorkeepers called out and told it to the king's household within. 12. And the king arose in the night and said to the servants, "I will now tell you what the Arameans have done to us. They know that we are hungry. Therefore they have gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the fields, saying, when we come out of the city, we will capture them alive and then get into the city." 4:19. Shalamat's land restored. 13. And one of the servants answered and said, "Let some horsemen take 5 of the horses that remain. If they are captured, let them be considered a loss like all the army of Israel that has perished. Therefore, let us send and see." 14. So two couples of horsemen mounted, and the king sent them after the army of Aaron, saying, Go and see. "15. And they went after them as far as the Jordan, and lo, all the road was full of garments and vessels, which the Arameans had left behind in their haste. And the messengers returned and told the king. 16. And the people went out and plundered the camp of Aaron. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. 17. And the king placed his aide in charge of the gate, and the people trod upon him at the gate, and he died, as the prophet of God had said, when he came down as a messenger to him. 18. And it came to pass, as the prophet of God had foretold to the king, saying, A measure of fine flour for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel shall be sold tomorrow at this time in the gate of Samaria. 19. But the mighty man had answered the prophet of God and said, If the Lord should make windows in heaven, could this thing be? And the prophet had said, Behold, you will see it with your eyes, but you shall not eat of it. 20. And so it happened to him, for the people trod upon him in the gate, and he died. Chapter 8. Then Elisha said to the woman whose son had been restored to life, Arise and go to your household.
Unwind to world sounds. SBS Chill.
And sojourn wherever you can, for the Lord has called for a famine, and it shall come to the land for 7 years. So the woman arose and did according to the word of the prophet of God, and she went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. 3. And at the end of 7 years, when the woman returned from the land of the Philistines, she went forth to cry to the king for a house and for a field. 4. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of God, the servant of the prophet of God, saying, Tell me all the great things that Elisha has done. 5. And while he was telling the king how Elisha had restored a dead body to life, behold, the woman whose son had been restored to life cried to the king for a house and for a field. And Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. 6. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed to her a certain officer and said to him, Restore all that was hers, and all the produce of a field from the day she left the land, even until now. 7. And Elisha came to Damascus, and Bar-Hadad, the king of Aram, was sick, and it was told him, saying, The prophet of God has come here. 8. And the king said to Hazael, Take a present with you and go to meet the prophet of God and inquire of the Lord for me, saying, Shall I recover from this disease? 9. So Hazael went to meet him and took a present with him, even of every good thing in Damascus, 40 camels burden, and came and stood before him and said, Your son Bar-Hadad, king of Aram, has sent me to you, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? 10. And Elisha said to him, Go say to him, You shall surely recover, but the Lord has shown me. Say to him, You shall surely recover, but the Lord has shown me that he shall surely die. 11. Then the prophet of God wept, and Hazael said, Why does my... Oh, it's Elisha. Why does my... Why does my Lord weep? And Elisha said to him, Because I know the evil that you will do to the children of Israel, the strongholds that you will set on fire, the young men you will slay with the sword, and you will dash their children against the ground and rip up their women with child. 420 Kings of Israel and Judah. 13 And Hazael said, But what is your servant, a dog, that he should do this terrible thing? And Elisha answered, The Lord has shown me that you shall be king The Lord has shown me that you shall be king over Aram. 14 So Hazael departed from Elisha and came to his master, and his master said to him, What did Elisha say to you? And he answered, Thus he said to me, You shall surely recover. 15 And on the morrow Hazael took a thick cloth and dipped it in water and spread it over the king's face, so that he died. And Hazael reigned in his stead. 16 And in the 5th year of Joram the son of Ahab king of Israel, Joram the son of Jehoshaphat king of Judah began to reign. 17 He was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. 18 And he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and as did the house of Ahab, for the sister of Ahab was his wife, and she did evil in the sight of the Lord. 19 Yet the Lord would not destroy Judah for David his servant's sake, as he promised to him that he would give an heir to his children all the days. 20 In his days Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah and set up a king over themselves. 21 So Joram went over to Zair and all the chariots with him, and he arose by night and to smite the Edomites who had surrounded him and his commanders with chariots. But the people fled to their tents. 22 So Edom revolted under the hand of Judah even to this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. 23 And the rest of the acts of Joram and all that they did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah. 24 And Joram slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Azahiah his son reigned in his stead. 25 In the 11th year of Joram the son of Ahab king of Israel, Azahiah the son of Joram king of Judah began to reign. 26 Azahiah was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri king of Israel. 27 And he walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did evil in the sight of the Lord, as did the house of Ahab, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. 28 And he went with Joram the king of Ahab, the son of Ahab, to war against Hazael the king of Aram at Ramoth Gilead, and the Arameans wounded Joram. 29 And Joram the son of Ahab went back to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Arameans had inflicted on him in Ramoth, when he fought against Hazael king of Aram. And Azahiah the son of Joram king of Judah went down to see Joram the son of Ahab in Jezreel, because he was sick. Chapter 9 Then Elisha the prophet called of the sons of the prophets and said to him, Gird up your loins and take this flask of oil in your hand and go to Ramoth Gilead. 2 And when you get there, look for Jehu the son of Imshi, and go and make him arise up from among his brethren, and bring him into the inner chamber. 3 Then take the flask of oil and pour it on his head, and say to him, Thus says the Lord, I have anointed you king over my people Israel. Then open the door and flee, and do not tarry. 4. So the young prophet went to Ramoth Gilead. 5. And when he came in, behold, the commanders of the army were sitting, and he said, I have an errand to you. O commander. And Jehu said, which of us? And he said to him, to you, O commander. 4:21. Jehu usurps the throne. 6. And he arose and went into the inner chamber, and he poured the oil on his head and said to him, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I have anointed you king over the people of the Lord, even of Israel. 17. And you shall smite the house of Ahab your master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord, at the hand of Jezebel. 8. For I will destroy the whole house of Ahab, and will cut off from Ahab every male and every one in authority in Israel. 9. And I will make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah. 10. And the dog shall eat Jezebel in the inheritance of Naboth in Jezreel, and there shall be none to bury her. And he opened the door and fled. 11. Then Jehu came forth to the servants of his Lord, and they said to him, Is all well? Why did this mad fellow come to you? And he said to them, You know the man and his folly. 12. And they said to him, You are lying, tell us now. And he said to them, Thus and thus he spoke to me, saying, Thus says the Lord, I have anointed you king of Israel. 13. And they fastened and took every man his garment and put it under him on the top of the stairs, and blew with trumpets, saying, Jehu is king. 14. So Jehu the son of Imshi conspired against Joram. Now Joram was holding Ramoth Gilead, he and all Israel with him, because of Hazael king of Aram. 15. But King Joram had returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Arameans had inflicted on him when he fought against Hazael king of Aram. And Jehu said, If it please you, let no one go forth nor escape out of the city to tell it to Jezreel. So 16. So Jehu rode in a chariot and went to Jezreel.
You're on SBS Chill.
For Joram lay there. And Ahaziah king of Judah had come down to see Joram the son of Ahab, who was sick in Jezreel. 17. And the watchman was standing in the tower of Jezreel, and he saw a chariot of Jehu as it was coming. And the watchman said, I see chariots. And Joram says, Take a chariot and send it to meet him, and let him say, Is it peace? 18. So there went a horseman to meet him, and said to him, Thus says the king, Is it peace? And Jehu said, What have you to do with peace? Turn behind me. And the watchman told, saying, The messenger came, but he did not return. 19. Then he sent out a second horseman, who came to them and said, Thus says the king, Is it peace? And Jehu answered, What have you to do with peace? Turn behind me. 20. And the watchman told, saying, The messenger came to them, but he did not return. And the driving is like the driving of Jehu the son of Imshi, for he drives furiously. 21. And Joram said, Make ready. And they made ready chariots. And Joram king of Israel and Ahaziah king of Judah went out, each to his chariot, and they went to meet Jehu, and met with him in the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. 22. And when Joram saw Jehu, he said, Is it peace, Jehu? And Jehu answered, What peace? So long as the whoredoms of your mother Jezebel and her witchcrafts are so many. 23. Then Joram turned back and fled, and said to Ahaziah, There is treachery, O Ahaziah. 24. And Jehu drew a bow with his full strength, and smote Joram in his back, and the arrow went out of his heart, and he sank down in his chariot. 25. Then Jehu said to Baadekah, his mighty man, Take him up, and cast him into the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. For I remember how when you and I were driving together after Abby's father, the Lord said this thing against him. 26. Surely I have seen yesterday the the blood of Naboth and the blood of his sons, says the Lord, and I will requite you in this field, says the Lord. Now therefore take him up and cast him into the field according to the word of the Lord. So they cast him into the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. 422. Death of Jezebel. 27. But when Azariah the king of Judah saw this, he fled by the garden house, by the way of the garden house, and Jehu pursued him and said, slay him also. And they slew him in his chariot at the ascent of the mound, which is by Nebli-em, and he fled to Megiddo and died there. 28. And his servants took him and carried him in a chariot to Jerusalem and buried him in the sepulchre with his fathers in the city of David. 29. And in the 11th year of Joram the son of Ahab, Azariah began to reign in Judah. 30. And when Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her eyelids with kohl and adorned her head and looked out the window. What the hell is kohl? K-O-H-L, okay. Oh. Charcoal, okay, something, some sort of thing. These old bastards use, okay. She painted her eyelids with kohl and adorned her head and looked out a window. 31. And as Jehu entered in at the gate, she said, is it peace, you Zimri, murderer of his master? 32. And he lifted up his face to the window and said, who is on my side? And they looked out to him 2 or 3 eunuchs. 33. And he said, throw her down. So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall, and the horses entered and trod her underfoot. 34. Then he went in to eat and drink and said, say now to this cursed woman and bury her, for she is a king's daughter. 35. And they went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull and her feet and the palms of her hands. 36. And when they returned, they told him, and he said, this is the word of the Lord which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, in the field of Jezreel shall dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel. 37. And the corpse of Jezebel shall be as refuse upon the face of the field of Jezreel, and there will be none to bury her. So they shall not say, this is Jezebel.